Man, Columbus is a dick.
Bro.
Yeah.
Welcome to the After the Pod for Christopher Columbus, where we talk about what we just learned last week, but we're just vibing.
Vibe.
We just vibe about
And
it.
boy, we probably got a lot to say.
And we have a lot to say. I just want to say this one is particularly close to my heart because you can find me on TikTok, and this is the first video that kind of went viral of mine talking about history, and they had a lot to say about this. People have a lot of regard for Christopher Columbus. And I think we can say that he was an okay explorer because he found his way here on accident, but I don't think we can say he was like this god. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
This god that he makes himself out to be.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really have much to say about this episode because I already said it in the first line. Christopher Columbus is a dick.
I was going to say, shout out to my boy De Las Casas, Bartolome de las Casas, for writing all of this stuff down, because otherwise we'd know nothing. And, as you mentioned at the end, he continued to write about all of those different explorations, and he's, the main source for a lot of this, if I remember
Because
correctly.
they lost the first they lost the first draft. They lost the copy that was made of the first draft, but they somehow managed to save
The abstract.
the abstract of the copy. What?
Yeah.
And, De Las Casas did not try and sugarcoat things, which is probably for the best. He was like, oh, yeah, we got into a little stuff. It was like, no, they did some inhuman stuff here.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been nice if he did more to, stop it, but
Yeah.
at least he was able to write it down and,
So we have something to actually learn from.
yeah,
Right.
rather than just that nursery rhyme.
Yeah. Yeah.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue back in 1492. Screw that guy. I don't care.
It's just the way that he's mythologized. We talk about Rasputin's mythology, but there also is
Yeah.
mythology around Columbus because first of all, he's Italian, but also some sources say he might have been Portuguese or even Spanish. We don't learn about that.
Yeah.
He's just Italian. We didn't learn that he dabbled in slave trading in Portugal when he was on that boat, which I don't know, I just feel there's pieces of him that we don't know anything, but he discovered the new world, and because of him,
He's a hero.
yeah.
He's the founder of America.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the term "dabble in slavery" is such a strange thing. Oh, just a little
slavery.
light slavery.
Some light slavery until the not so light slavery. Yeah, I have a lot of hate for this man. I think I feel so strongly about him because of the backlash that I think I got when I talked about it, because I was like, it's okay to say that we learned something and we didn't learn the whole truth.
Yeah.
But for people to be so upset when I was telling them, I was like, this is from a man who, Bartolome de las Casas was there, and he was writing this down. He's not lying to us. His job was to scribe. It just because it isn't what you remember doesn't mean you can't hold both things in your mind.
Yeah.
You know?
We're all biased on the history we were taught in school of he's a good guy who found the world of the United States. The fact that he found the Bahamas first,
Yeah.
that doesn't normally get mentioned when we talk about Columbus in the United States.
No.
It's oh yeah, he went to the Bahamas first and he took a bunch of slaves and a bunch of people died because he killed them because he's a terrible human being. No. He founded America.
Yeah, I had mentioned that in the TikTok, and people were like, well, he didn't. And I was like, you're not from the U.S. The U.S. kind of teaches it that way, which is very wrong.
Yeah, everything that I was taught growing up was essentially what I was saying before, or what we were saying before. He came to America, he founded it, and he's the one who gave America its name, essentially, or gave America what we believe to be the founding of the United States.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, he sailed in and founded Washington D.C. That's not how it worked.
I was I think the best I learned was he found the Bahamas first and then the rest of America. And it's that's the closest thing we got to the truth was, yeah, he got the Bahamas first. Oh yeah, then he just discovered all the rest of it.
And not even mentioning oh yeah, what did he do in the Bahamas?
He
was
met
there.
met the indigenous people,
Wiped him out.
He also never actually made it to the mainland U.S. ever. He just stayed in the Caribbean. Fun fact.
Wild.
I know. And it just feel I don't know, especially when we talk about Bartolome de las Casas was a religious man. He was there in religious capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And these men were Christians. And then can so quickly turn from what do you learn in Christianity, right? To treat your neighbors as yourself, to do good.
The Ten Commandments say love your neighbor, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. That's not Ten Commandments. That's just the golden rule
Right.
that we've all been taught growing up. Thou shalt not murder. That's crazy.
It was just like, I don't know, when I see these people that like want to bring missionaries and civilize and then do these horrible things, I was like, you don't speak for the religion. You use it as like a cloak.
Yeah, it's a convenient ploy in order to do whatever the hell you want. Like, I know for a fact we're going to be doing episodes about the Inquisitions later on in the future, but the Inquisitions essentially saying, hey, because of religious reasons, we're going to war in another continent pretty much. Because God told us to, or the Pope, who is the voice of God, told us to.
Jason, you're not supposed to mention we're going to do the Inquisition. It's supposed to be a surprise.
No, that's the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, okay. We're talking about the other Inquisition.
Yeah,
Okay.
because he was for Portugal, right? Not Spain, right?
He I'm so sorry. He sailed for Spain.
Shit, I did mention the Spanish Inquisition.
No one suspects the Spanish Inquisition.
I feel like we have to drop that as an episode just out of the blue,
That'd
like
be good.
completely, like not in the
On, like,
middle
a
of
Monday.
our. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna post these on like a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever. Then just some random Monday, boom.
No one
Spanish
suspected
Inquisition.
it.
I was going to say, we
This is
hold,
foreshadowing for the people who are listening.
Can I say, we hold like Columbus and like, oh, there's so much like the myth and legend. He's not even a cool myth. At least
No.
Rasputin could like see the future and was like possessed by the devil. At least have a cool mythology about
Oh,
you.
my mythology is I wiped out entire people and their way of life, and I kept slaves.
My mythology is I founded Washington, D.C. Girl, no, I want you to see the future, to be imbued by the devil. Like, that's at least cool. It's something funny to talk about, not just, yeah, I found the Americas.
Speaking of funny things to talk about,
Take it back.
the fact that, like, there's the quote on the 33rd day after leaving Cadiz, came to the Indian Sea. I took possession of all of it, like all of them for our most fortunate king by making the public proclamation and unfurling his standard with no one making any resistance. It's like,
They don't know what it means.
yeah,
That's a pretty
dude just
cool-
walks
pretty
up,
cool
shows a
flag.
poster, and says, "We're for the king," and they're like, "Oh, sick drawing, dog," like that. And like they're supposed to understand, okay, cool, now we're property of some other guy. No, they just see you dropping a poster and they're like, well done. Word. You're a good artist.
Yeah, they didn't.
I'm pretty sure they didn't speak frickin' Portuguese or Spanish
No.
or Latin.
They didn't speak any of that.
So like expecting them to understand, here's the standard of the king that I serve, suddenly means that we are, like, if you're talking to me in another language, I'm not going to understand what that means.
Yeah.
Wait, why would they understand? Didn't he land in India?
Yeah. Also,
Was he speaking Indian?
He also
Speaking that, no.
dumb man was like, I'm gonna go to India. Not even at all in his mind was like, this could be someplace completely new. I also think it's interesting. He just assumed gold was gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Some
not how it
places
works.
don't have gold.
Right. And it's not like I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that they were in contact with like Tenochtitlan or like the Maya who had gold. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that they were like, there's the Greater and the Lesser Antilles, and the Lesser Antilles, those smaller islands, they were just in contact with each other. So like, how do you know? They probably had little bit.
Yeah,
But, like-
maybe a little bit. But the fact that it was like his pure ignorance and incompetence that founded essentially like the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
Because he thought he was in India. So it's like, oh yeah. And now we call it the West Indies. It's like, that's wild.
One man's mistake.
God,
Dog's
that's-
been given way too much credit.
Facts.
Like I remember telling Dad that that's why I call people. That's why I call Native Americans Indians, and he was like shook about that. He's like, I need to tell my friends about this at work.
Native
and they're
Americans
like,
are
yeah, dog, you
Indians?
didn't know that.
And I think that's like so interesting though, because like I don't think a lot of people who don't look at history after like K through 12 know a lot of this.
He was like, oh, that's why we call them Indians. Yeah, because he was so dumb, he thought he landed in India.
And
It's
that's
like,
why it's wrong to call them.
Yeah. I love the brilliance of like people trying to defend Christopher Columbus after he brought man-eating dogs and like
fed babies
burned
to them.
people alive, put them on the stake, put them on the spit. Like, how are you going to defend somebody who cooks people and feeds them to his dogs?
I was going to say, have you ever heard of Jeffrey Dahmer? 'Cause some people really tried to defend him.
How do people defend him either?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that part.
No, he was evil. Like I do think one of my history teachers said that like evil's a bad word because it makes them seem like they're inhuman, and a lot of evil lives in humans. But like he was an awful person. Like if you during this time get told of your cruelty, get chained up, sent back to Spain and thrown in prison for your cruelty, it's not just like, oh, it was just the disease. It was like at one point they were like, this is so fucked up. We have to imprison you.
Yeah.
Why they send him back for a fourth round? I don't know.
Like, my favorite thing is the fact that it's like, you're getting called out for being a piece of garbage by the king because you got arrested and then sent back. But then you also get called out by the church who you say you're doing this entire thing for. And then as soon as they call you out saying, what's wrong with you? Are you not bound to love these people for they are men, for they have souls? Are you not bound to love them? The dude and his son are like,
Just
take
take
it back.
I don't like
Stop
what you
it.
said. Mom said you had to take it back.
And then the guy had to go all the way to Spain to defend what he said.
Yeah.
It is crazy because, like, I guess they were getting so much from their colonization that Spain was just like,
I mean, we're not witnessing these atrocities, so is it really a problem? It's happening on the other side of the ocean.
You know what? Fine. Okay. Just treat them a little better. You can still enslave them, but like at least treat them a little better. Okay. That'll
There's
smooth
no other
things out.
countries watching what we're doing, so like, just treat them better so that we can tell everybody that we're good guys. Mm-hmm. We just want the public perception to be that we're good people.
yeah, I think that's like what like history revisionism comes down to is like we tell this piece about Columbus, which is true, and we don't teach the rest because we want to believe at a certain point that this country isn't as horrible as they say they are to fund somebody who did this with their knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was like, colonialism is dark. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like you can't, no way around it. Nobody does good colonialism.
True.
I was going to say, of course, the other thing I always think about is like, yeah, but you can't judge them by modern standards. Girl, like, he was getting judged by their standards and
Yes.
still failing.
Yes.
Like there's certain parts where you can be like, yeah, different time. It's hard to really say like this person was evil.
The bar was low and he still fell underneath
I was
it.
going to say when even they're like you're doing bad stuff. Back then, we know how terrible it is, but like even back then they're like, dog, this is too much.
You're
Like
feeding
I feel
people
okay
to dogs.
to judge
People
him.
are being trampled by horses.
They're
You're
having their
burning
hands,
people alive.
they're
You're
cutting off their hands and hanging them up so that everyone knows what will happen to you if you don't give me gold.
It's just like I feel like I can justifiably say this guy is bad when even they said he's bad.
There were three, I didn't type this up, but there were three different like indigenous groups in that area. There were the Wanahanabe, who were still hunter-gatherers who lived in like Cuba and in the mountains of Hispaniola, who never grew past that. And there were the Caribs, and then there were the Taino. And essentially, the Caribs and the Taino were like infighting because the Caribs didn't have a lot of women, so they would steal Taino women to like have children with. But once Columbus came, the Caribs all fled to the Lesser Antilles, to like those little tiny islands like Turks and Caicos now, and they did not want to be involved with what was happening there.
They
and the
knew
Taino,
the GTFO.
yeah, the Taino like couldn't leave. They were stuck, and then the Wanahanabe died out. They did, because of all that happened, and I was like, that's so wild to think that out of these three, like, you scared away one entire group of people. One people could not leave.
Also, I'm sorry, but when you started saying the three, my immediate thought was, oh yeah, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
And one of them crashed.
Oh
and
yeah,
One of them sunk on
Only
the way
two-
there.
Only two of them actually made it
Only
back.
two of them made it. We didn't know that. We don't learn that. I don't know. It's interesting
wild.
to me, and I just wanted to make this episode just to bring awareness. You can still think Columbus is a great navigator. Cool.
You would be.
Not wrong.
You
need
wouldn't
an
be made fun
asterisk.
of for saying that he was a good navigator
Right.
because he made it to land.
And he did help found the what would eventually become President of America, but you have to put like asterisk
Yeah.
or stuff like that because
Like, we can't look at it through the rose-tinted glasses
Yeah.
saying, oh yeah, he's a great man because he did one good thing.
Right.
You also have to look at the history and see, oh no, he did this bad thing and this bad thing and this bad thing. Like, people can have their positives, but they can also have their negatives. Just like with what he was trying to do to the Taino people, don't deify him.
Oh my God, I know. It's a thing that conquistadors like to do to make them seem like the indigenous were so you know, like just they didn't understand, but they knew that they were godly. And I was like, isn't it though in religion you don't try to deify yourself? Like, isn't that a
False
sin?
idols?
False
Yes,
idols.
isn't that a sin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I be? Is it a false idol if I am the idol?
And like none of these people believed it. Like
Yeah.
we
He's just
ha-
saying they believe.
Best they go is,
Yes.
oh my god, this guy is big and intimidating. That doesn't mean he's a god, but they probably were like, yeah, it's big and intimidating, and what is all these things?
I feel like he walked so that Hernan Cortez could run because Hernan Cortez was like, I'm your whole ass Quetzalcoatl god. And we have scribes who were like, nobody believed that. But then they say it over and over and over again, it becomes like fact when it isn't fact.
They
And I-
believed him to be a god. No, he said they believed he
Yeah.
was a god.
like
He believed.
they didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Eventually they did. And also it's crazy that like within 100 years, the Aboriginal indigenous people were gone, meaning that like Spanish involvement, there wasn't any just like group of Taino that were not touched.
They were all
They were all,
either indoctrinated, enslaved, or murdered.
yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Just a light little.
So, to start off this episode and to finish off this episode, I'm just going to say Christopher Columbus is a dick.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. He was part of my piece of shit human in history series, and there's a reason for it. There's no sugarcoating it. I hate that man. I have beef. Take him out of Columbus Circle. Let's rename it. Let's name it Montesano Circle. I like that man.
Ooh, Bartolome de las Casas Circle.
I think he also did some not great things.
I mean, probably. But
Probably. But we
he's a
respect
better choice than Columbus at the very least.
the De Las Casas
to be
Circle.
fair, that's a really low bar to
It's
clear.
it's such a low bar, but he's,
The bar's
he's
in
barely above it. He tripped over the bar, but he's above it.
That's true. That's true. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to our After the Pod for the Christopher Columbus episode. If you have not listened to the Christopher Columbus episode yet, you should totally do that. It was released last week, so it should be the pod before this pod.
Yeah.
All of our sources for what we're talking about here are from that past video. So if you want sources, look in that description box.
Yep.
Join us next time for another exciting talk of history. Thanks
Yeah.
for being here. Oh, thanks for thanks for being here. Thank you for being here. And
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.